Forestry. I believe we have a great intellectual capital around sustainable forestry, and it's through high-speed telecommunications that we can sell that intellectual capital to the rest of the world. In aquaculture and agriculture, of course, we see smart grid technology or smart water infrastructure technology benefiting both. But even more exciting, I think, is the opportunity for a farmer at Circular Head growing what we know as the best beef in the world, selling that value added to a Tokyo supermarket, not through the processing of that beef necessarily, but through the addition of information and knowledge to the customer that a customer is prepared to pay more for. It's that value adding in our traditional industries, it's that productivity and innovation in our traditional industries that the NBN will have its biggest impact in Tasmania. We've seen some economic data in some recent days and weeks that presents some challenges for us, no doubt. But I think it's also important to focus on the positives of that economic data, and we see the value of exports in Tasmania over the recent period rising by 19%. We see a record $750 million infrastructure spend by the state government, and we see 4,700 jobs created in Tasmania in the last 6 months, and a participation rate that is finally heading north to where we want to see it. These are all really things to be optimistic about in Tasmania's economy, optimistic for investment for the future, and optimistic that the new infrastructures like NBN that we're rolling out will bring a new wave of opportunity. This government is determined in a complex political environment that you, the Tasmanian people, presented the Parliament, to create stability and certainty, and that's why we have moved to do what we have done in recent months. And this government values and will continue to value innovation, sustainability, participation and connectedness. And for me, nothing like the NBN and this optic fibre rollout ticks those value boxes more than we can see here today. So I am very excited to see in such a short time your four organisations do such a great job in putting this program together. We're pleased to support it. I understand there are 17 workshops available, starting in Swansea in early August, including Flinders Island and King Island, and finishing in Hobart in mid-October. The website, the URL is there for everyone to see, nbnforbusiness.net.au. I encourage all of Tasmanian industry to get onto this website, register your interest and take that vital step into the digital future. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to declare NBN for Business officially open for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Obviously, we're all looking forward to the success of the workshops, and there'll be obviously a lot of interest already, and we'd have indications already, strong numbers of interest. And not long after that, we hope to get lots of good stories about how it's actually being used, because that's what we really want out of this. It's we've heard about it, but we want to see Tasmanians using it, so that's the next big step. So probably to hear a little bit about how the associations think this is going to work, and they're interested in the program. I'd firstly call Robert Wallace to come to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Well, I've got hair grey enough to also think back and remember about 10 or 12 years ago. I remember when John was first appointed in Launceston to establish the TECC, and I was involved in a lot of export overseas at that time, into Europe and North America, and we saw this as a great opportunity of getting into, we even termed in those days, the digital economy. Little did we know that it was going to morph into what we're looking at and seeing today, really the birth, just the very beginning. We don't know what we don't know yet, and I'll just quickly explain to you the three stages of what this and how this process works. I'd also just quickly like, before I do start in that process, just explain why John was asked to. I particularly asked John to come along. I remember the day that the NBN funding, not for our projects but for the estate, was made by our Premier, David Bartlett, and it was on a Sunday afternoon, and there was a TV shot being made of David having a coffee in Salamanca with John. And I thought, yes, here is an opportunity. John and I hadn't worked closely together, but we did know each other and we had respect for each other. So that's why, John, I haven't said this to you, but that's why I actually asked you to come along today to actually MC this small session.
Another cup of coffee, yeah.
I paid that.
Yeah, that's right. We've got an account we can actually pay for. Just very quick background. Each of the 3 or 4 of us are going to just have a few minutes explaining what we're going to do. But I just thought, and we haven't compared notes, so I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder. So I thought I might just explain how we came together and what we intend to do, as opposed to get into any detail as to what each 4 organisations are going to do. Firstly, we were approached by the Premier to actually accept this funding, all 4 of us at $250,000 each, but we were approached independently and individually. It was only when we came together that we realised there was some real common synergies that we could actually pull together. And it really started by, well, okay, the brief was we had to get out and share this with business and our members. Now, it could have been, for example, that we all ended up in the one town on the one night, which would have been ridiculous. So we've actually developed an MOU for stage 1. There are 3 stages. Stage 1 is where it's education awareness of business as to what the capacity and capabilities might be for the use of the NBN. Stage 2, and all 4 organisations, we've signed an MOU and we're joining some of our funding together to get leverage to go into that stage 1. Stage 2 is where we're looking geographically across the state at about 8 or 10 businesses that we can use as peers, if you like, or mentors for other businesses. And we will actually be each working with our own individual members and business sectors, again because of the collaboration we now have, making sure that we don't duplicate sectors or industry sectors, so as that we can get the broadest possible bang for our buck. The 3rd section or stage will be where we actually select 2 to 4 companies, and we will go live with those companies, support them, help them to get their business right up to cutting edge digital economy standards, and equally dealing with their partners. So it could be something, just a very quick little synopsis, it could be a fresh fruit producer in the south of the state working with the logistics and the banking and the managing, where the product is overnight freighted to Melbourne, then air freighted to London, and then into the store the next morning, which would be around about 48 hours. Now, it equally could be that those buyers in that store in London could be watching the harvesting live of and the packing and all those transactions that can take place. As also the Premier mentioned in some of our other fine food areas, would be the connectivity that customers can have when they're standing there selecting and buying. There's no reason there can't be screens there showing them, giving them all the information. So that's the type of thing. Our section isn't so much on the picking of the fruit, it's the logistics and the management of that area. So that's just the 3 stages. Where we can, we will cooperate. We will invest the money wisely, Mr. Premier, to make sure that we do get value. There's great opportunity to bring in other commercial partners, companies who are in this space and perhaps haven't even released products or software programs as yet. We want to engage them early in the process